I had come across somebody actually like at a coffee shop who was really into investing and he had a ton of money invested. And I had told him that I wanted to invest. He was an older guy and he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot. So I kind of had like a mentor. And once that kind of ran its course, I then did my own, research into personal finance, whether it was, reading books or Google or YouTube University.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Learn Like a CPA show. I'm your host, Ryan, and today we have a very special guest, Ajla from Ajla Talks. And we
Hello.
we originally got connected. I want to say I had maybe 400 followers, I think. Not
Yeah,
gonna lie, not gonna
sounds about
lie.
right.
But it was back when I was really big on more of my content was tailored towards personal finance and kind of building wealth for everybody. And then obviously since, over I would say the 3 years that we've known each other, so it's gotten more dive deeper into the real estate niche. But we both got connected originally because we love personal finance and we love taking these things that are extremely complicated and making and boiling it down to something that everybody can understand. And so could you talk a little bit about your background, maybe college and your experience?
Yeah, so I went to college at FAU in Boca Raton. And from a very early age, like I just knew I didn't and couldn't work for anybody else. I would sell things on eBay all the time. I would like go to the stores and buy used items and then sell them on eBay and babysit all the time. So I really never liked having like a job that's like a W-2. So when I went to college, I then started a natural skincare business literally right out of my college dorm. And after I graduated, I had this kind of moment where I was like, I can't work in a cubicle. I can't do it. I did work at a marketing place for maybe 6 months before I was going to graduate, and they had offered me full time after I graduated about $28,000 a year. And this
Wow.
was only a few years ago. So I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to figure it out. And if I have to live under a bridge, I'm going to live under a bridge. So ended up figuring it out. The skincare business took off. It was in a few stores online and it started generating money. Once it started generating money, I knew that I shouldn't spend the money and I should, try to invest it. And that's kind of how TikTok, Instagram, and the finance page took off. I started to make content around investing, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
So it sounds like you didn't learn about investing or finance in college because you went to school for marketing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you learn enough about personal finance and investing so that way you were able to teach other people about it?
Yeah, so this was kind of during COVID, so we all had a lot of time. Um, Definitely, I had come across somebody actually like at a coffee shop who was really into investing and he had a ton of money invested. And I had told him that I wanted to invest. He was an older guy and he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot. So I kind of had like a mentor. And once that kind of ran its course, I then did my own, research into personal finance, whether it was, reading books or Google or YouTube University. So that's
Hmm.
where that came from.
And so I used to talk a lot about this. I haven't been on my soapbox in quite a while for this, but I mean, when it comes to personal finance, it's very taboo. A lot of people don't like to talk about money. You're always told, at least, hey, you should never ask women their weight. You should never ask a man how much money they make. Like these are just old, at least in the Midwest here, it's just been an old sort of saying and kind of how people live. But it just so happens that the families that don't talk about money oftentimes are the families that don't have any of it, right? Or
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you seen, even in my Facebook feed, GoFundMe's for people who have passed away, and it's like, man, they didn't have $10,000, $20,000 to cover burial costs or funeral costs. It's really sad, and I think one of the problems is just the different. Well, of course, number one, we're not taught money in school, but when you look
Mhm.
at all the different types of retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, annuities, and investments and stocks, and it gets very confusing. How would you recommend, I guess, somebody just getting started and interested in investing? Like, how do they learn the different types of accounts?
To be honest, I think it's definitely going to be kind of like a step-by-step thing. So the first one is obviously a 401k from your job. I
Mhm.
think kind of learning, and even I don't know how like the HR system works when it comes to the 401k, but if you're able to kind of get information or even just do your own research, like literally just Google or YouTube, like how does my 401k work? How do the fees work? When can I pull it out? Like just, all these different things. And then the next step is like, okay, I have an investment thing going with my job. How do I do more investments and open more accounts within my own personal life, which is obviously a Roth IRA is the next one, or traditional. So that's going to be kind of the next step. But I think people really kind of make it way more complicated than it needs to be. Like we're literally talking about a Google search. Like you can literally type in what kind of investment accounts can I open, you know?
Mhm.
So the
So
information's there.
the thing about the 401k fees, a lot of people don't realize that some people are getting absolutely screwed by their 401k sponsor plan. So I even remember when I was at Deloitte. So at Deloitte, my what's called expense ratio, which is basically, the percent of every single dollar that I have in the account is how much gets taken away in the form of fees. And so my expense ratio at Deloitte for this particular investment was 0.28% was my expense ratio. And once I had left Deloitte and I opened up and I rolled that into an IRA, my expense ratio was 0.04. So it was 7 times cheaper to invest money on my own. Same investment
Yeah.
vehicle. Literally, it was the same ticker. But because I was doing it on my own in my own investment account, it cost 7 times less. And a lot of people don't realize how much the fees eat up your overall account, when you talk about 20, 30 years of investing. Um, and also too, a lot of people aren't familiar with that their employer sometimes can match their investment. And that's obviously one of the cons of the IRA is that nobody matches it. You have to invest everything yourself. So you talked about 401k is probably the first step to understanding it. And then IRAs are next. Is there a certain
Wait,
type of IRA
I
product?
actually have
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
question for you on this one.
Okay.
So for someone, let's say somebody, is at work, they have a 401k, but they also have some credit card debt and they want to be able to like invest on their own. Would you recommend them to stick with a 401k or would you recommend them to not have any money taken out of their check and instead, use it to pay down debt or into their own personal investments?
Yeah, so I did a podcast a long time ago, probably over a year and a half ago. So it's called My Steps to Financial Freedom. So Dave Ramsey has an equivalent baby steps, but his look a lot drastically different than mine because he wants you to get out of all debt as possible, no matter what the interest rate is. So I basically have a rule. So if I can remember how my 7 steps go, number one is you have to have $1,000 saved, like you kind of like an emergency fund. Step number two is you have to have health insurance covered, whether that's through work or you have to have health insurance because even if you're young, I knew somebody that was my age that actually had kidney stones and he didn't have a health insurance. It was an $8,000 medical bill out of his own pocket. That could set you back drastically. Um, Step number three. So once you have your $1,000 emergency fund and you have your health insurance, I want to say step number three is contribute up to the minimum of your employer match. So if your employer matches 5% of your 401k, contribute up to that, but nothing further. Because it is free money. So you're
Mhm.
guaranteed to get that return no matter what. Now, some companies will have certain vesting periods. So for example, if you don't stay for the company at least a year, they can take it all back. So if your company doesn't have a vesting, I would contribute up to that match. But then as far as what you do after that, because there's no necessarily guarantee, I tell people after contributing to the employer match, they should pay off all high interest debt. So high interest debt to me is going to be any non-secured, or I'm sorry, any secured debt that's going to be 7% or higher. So credit cards, car loans, maybe you might have private student loans that are going to be 7% or higher. To pay off all high interest debt, not low interest debt. So you might have had mortgage interest or a home that's 3, 4%, student loans that are federally backed that might be less than 7%. But after you do your employer match, pay off the high interest debt, and then you could do more investing. And then I actually recommend people to do more investing and then go back and pay that low interest debt. So paying off the low interest debt is one of the further down steps for me personally, because, let me explain, because you can out earn the amount of money that you're paying an interest on that debt. So if I owe you $10,000 and I owe you 3% interest on that 10,000 and I pay 3% interest on that 10,000, I could take that 10,000 and most likely invest it and borrow and get 7, 8, 9, 10% return on that. So, and then I could pay you back with the money that I made. That gets a lot harder when it's higher interest debt, right? There's not enough margin. So I think it makes sense to pay off low interest debt last.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Mhm.
That was a good one
So
because I've had that
yeah.
question. So
Um, so what is your, so let's go into that, because one of the things that you do, and you actually recommended this to me a while ago, is, which it kind of makes sense because we're younger, but you do individual stocks at all?
yes.
Okay. And what is your, because obviously, a lot of stock people say, well, you should invest in index funds, 20, 30
Mhm.
years, you're going to out earn the market. Don't pick a single company because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. So I guess, how does that look? I mean, do you recommend individual stocks to everybody?
Well, this is not financial advice.
Okay.
There's no
We'll,
recommendation.
we'll put a disclaimers
Um,
in.
but to be honest with you, I am.
Hey guys, I just want to interrupt the podcast today to let you know about my free long-term rental tax training that I just released. It's going to teach you all the tax strategies that you need to know to save you tens of thousands of dollars a year in taxes. So go sign up at the link below.
To be honest with you, I am 50-50. So if it were me, and this is what
Really?
I do 50% index, ETFs, things like that, and then 50% individual. I definitely think it's not for everybody, especially if you're not really hands-on with your stocks, then I probably wouldn't go individual and I would probably get like a group of stocks instead.
Mm-hmm. So you're fit. So if you had $5,000 to invest, you're putting $2,500 in a mutual fund and the other 25. I guess, how do you pick the
Yes.
individual stocks? Are they mostly like blue chip companies? Are they
No, to be honest, they're like the bigger fish. So like Amazon, Apple, like
mhm,
things like that. It's
mhm.
not like, penny stocks or anything like that. They're definitely still safe and they're definitely still really big, reliable companies. I just definitely love to have both. I think it's
Mhm.
beneficial and it kind of makes it fun for me.
So one of the things that at least is a problem to me and a lot of people who are entrepreneurs is getting loans from a bank. And I
Mhm.
think we've talked about this before, but have you been able to receive any sort of loans or business financing, even though you're self-employed?
I actually have not done that. I haven't had the need to get
Okay.
loans into the business, so I can't speak on
Hmm.
that one.
And what is because I know you were telling me about one of the investment properties, or at least a deal that you had. What did you end up doing with that? Can you share that story? It was the property in
Yeah,
Maryland,
yeah. So
right?
that was, I mean, that was actually really cool. Somebody had Well, there was a group of guys who do taxes for the most part, and more so like real estate taxes. So they now formed a group where they basically buy and flip homes. And this was in California, and they had reached out and they're like, "Hey, we are looking for people to give us loans, and you get a nice little chunk back of interest." And it was the first time, so I was kind of hesitant. I put in 15K and it turned out to be awesome. Like they were super communicative. They were really, really great. Sent us photos all the time, answered questions, got on the phone, and we just actually got the payout a few weeks ago. So it was cool.
Hmm. And so you'll probably do, I guess, is there a certain sweet spot that you would recommend somebody to kind of diversify their portfolio? Because one of the things I even think about
Mhm.
myself is out of my total overall net worth, like how much do I want in retirement accounts that I can't touch till I'm 59 and a half without paying a penalty? How much do I want in, the businesses that I own or the real estate that I own? Because one of the things that's interesting is the amount of money that baby boomers have. And it's just
Mhm.
leaps and bounds more than how much money we have. But when they pass away, it has to go somewhere. So there's
Yeah.
going to be a bunch of people that have all this money, but if they're not smart, they don't really know what to do with it. But I also think a lot of people don't want to be investing in a retirement account. So I think they'd rather do stocks or real estate or unfortunately, so maybe unfortunately, but not fortunately, crypto sometimes. But
I knew you were going to say that. I don't know if people are still like banking that much on crypto anymore. But I definitely think they're not thinking about retirement in that way. However, if they have, a brokerage account, like that kind of could be their retirement in a way. So it kind of goes that way. But I definitely think the people that will be left with a big chunk of money will be just way ahead of everybody else. Like we think we're working and like making all this money and whatever, and then in come these people with like millions just like that. So it'll be interesting
Mhm.
to see that trajectory.
So you mentioned that's something we haven't talked about yet. So yeah, you mentioned a brokerage account. Can you explain a little bit about what a taxable brokerage is to people?
Yeah, so a taxable brokerage is basically like a free for all in a way. You don't really have any rules. You can just open up this brokerage account under your name, and depending on when you sell a stock, so if you sell it less than a year, you get taxed at a higher rate, and then if you hold a stock longer than a year, you get taxed at your tax rate. So it's honestly, like I said, there's really no rules. It's not like a Roth IRA when you have to like pull it out at a certain time and you get hit with a bunch of fees if you pull it out before that certain time. So it's very transactional. You can invest, sell as many times you want with really no backlash other than taxes.
Hmm. Yeah, and I posted about this a long time ago. So that's part of the reason why I like that account because it does offer early financial freedom. So I
Yeah.
recommend people use that account sort of as a bridge between when they go to retire and when they actually start pulling their money from their retirement account. So, for example, like if I want to retire at 45 or 50, I need to have a pretty hefty taxable brokerage account because I otherwise, where am I going to get money until I'm 59 without tapping into my retirement account? And one of the things you mentioned with the tax rates is that as long as you've held the stock in the brokerage account for at least a year, you get capital gains tax treatment. And if the only income you have for the year is capital gains, and let's say you have $105,000 a year income if you're married and it's all capital gains, you actually don't pay any income tax on the capital gains, which is a super powerful wealth building and sort of, I guess, tax optimization strategy to retire at 45 or 50, just live on the taxable brokerage account until you're 59 and you could access your retirement funds.
I mean, honestly, I would even challenge that and just ask you, like, wouldn't it make sense even for now, for example, like, let's say somebody has a 401k, then they have a Roth IRA. And then honestly, like the next step, I don't think anybody should stop, right? At $6,500 a year. Like if you have and you're able to invest more money, then a brokerage account should be a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think the order of operations there would be 401k employer match. Then you go to your Roth IRA. Then you go, I mean, you could go, I would say throw an HSA in there too. So HSA after the Roth IRA, let's say. So 401k match, Roth IRA, HSA, taxable brokerage account. And then maybe go back to the 401k, maybe if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Go get your 20,000, whatever tax deduction you can get, because the taxable brokerage account will allow for that flexibility. Because if you want to sell it and pay capital gains, you can, you're not going to get hit with that 10% penalty. I would say one of the things I don't like about the taxable brokerage account is just as quickly you're like how you mentioned, it's kind of like a free for all. What scares me the most is that people are able to liquidate or access that money without any sort of penalties or repercussions, which causes people to, potentially sell because they're like, hey, I don't have to pay any penalties to sell in here.
Mhm.
Your Robinhood, your TD Ameritrade, studies show that people who are frequently transacting do not earn as much as people who just kind of leave their account sit over a long period of time. And I don't think I like how accessible a taxable brokerage account is sometimes.
I can totally see that. Definitely, I can totally see that. What do you think about option trading? Just out of curiosity.
You
Give
know,
us a one-liner.
I think it's
Extract.
a get rich. I think it's a get rich quick. I mean, what's crazy though is I talked to somebody yesterday. So I had somebody apply to work for one of my business, or she applied to be an investor in one of my companies, and I was talking to her on the phone, and she has her first investment was a $2 million lake home, $2 million lake home, and she reached out to me about investing in one of my deals, and I was kind of asking her, her income streams, like, okay, she's got rental income coming from there, she's got $500,000 coming from her doctor job. She's like, yeah, I do also do put options or put calls, and she was like, I sell puts. I was like, what do you do? She's like, yeah. So she's explaining it, and I was like, this lady's 55 and she's doing options trading. And she's like, yeah, I make like 30, 40K sometimes doing it. She goes,
What? Oh my
she goes,
gosh.
what's crazy though is she has to pay the highest tax rate on that
Yeah.
because it's taxed at her highest tax rate. So, but yeah, I would have never have thought. So to me, she had a good experience doing it, but I think the amount of time and effort and knowledge and experience I need to do that, I could just spend more money in my business with less risk. So I'm
Interesting.
out. It's a no for me, dog.
Yeah. I'm honestly kind of surprised because like while being a doctor, like where do you find the time
Yeah,
to
I
sit?
don't know. I was like, can
Pretty
you explain that a little bit to me? So yeah, but she said she sells puts.
cool.
Do you know that terminology?
Yeah, yeah. I dabbled in
Okay.
option trading a little bit. It wasn't for me, but I definitely like understand how it works and I understand the way that you can lose a lot of money, but you can make a lot of money too.
Hmm. So the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about, unless there's other things you wanted to chat about, was what would you recommend? Somebody kind of like you just said, hey, I never want to I can't work for a boss. It sounds like you realized that while you were in college with the skincare company. I guess what would be your best advice for somebody that maybe is in college now or is about to go in college and they don't want to work for somebody else? Do you recommend working somewhere for 6 months to get the experience to then leave, or do you just go right away? Because I have my own personal take on it. I tell people, you kind of want to have some proof, a concept. So maybe you're scaling your side hustle while you're working your W-2, and then you probably want to have 12 months of emergency expenses. But I always tell people if it doesn't work out, you just end up right at the same place you were going to be anyway, just another W-2 employee like everybody else does. So why not take the
That's a
risk? Why
little
not take the
harsh.
opportunity?
Oh my gosh.
What's wrong
You
with say
really say
that?
that?
I mean, I've said that to
If it
people.
doesn't work out, you just, you're just a regular. Oh my
I
God.
mean, am I wrong though?
No, definitely not. But wow, that was very brutally honest, which I'm here for. I like brutally honest.
What would you tell somebody right now?
But I definitely agree with you. I would definitely probably say that with the cost of everything, if I were to go back, because I kind of didn't do this, but if I were to go back, I would definitely have a job and a part-time maybe, and also try to start my own business as well. Because to be honest, there's so many costs, there's so many things, and it teaches you discipline too. Like when you have to go to school and a job, and then you're also creating a company, like you learn way more than you
Mm,
can ever learn. So I fully, fully recommend people to have a job and work on a business. Definitely.
okay.
And honestly, like I used to be at my job. I don't know if they're going to be listening, but I used to be at my job and I would like pretty much learn stuff on the job. Like I would be paid to sit there and learn. Like I would finish all the work and then Google like how to invest in stock. What is a stock? Like, you know what I mean? So, or like how do business taxes work? Like how do I get taxed? So if you're able to do that, why not?
I'm just laughing because I actually got fired from one of my jobs because I was doing other stuff while working there.
I love it. I mean, hey,
Uh,
you got to do what you got to do. I'm sure they found another replacement. So
yeah, they probably definitely found somebody way better than me. Okay. Well, where can listeners of the podcast find you?
So I am on social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram for the most part, and my handle is Ajla_talks, and it's a little hard name, so I'm going to spell it out for you. AJLA_talks, TALKS.
And that's on
And
all
that's me.
social media.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was super fun. Let's do it again.